Here you can learn about how to solve equations. In an equation, there is always one unknown. In this example, it is x. We want to solve the equation, so we must find out the value of x. Maybe you already see what x is here. Sometimes it is obvious, to some at least. But I'll show you a method that works, even those times when you just can't see what x represents. The method is rewriting the equation in a way that isolates x. So, let's get cracking on that rewrite. When you rewrite an equation, anything goes, as long as you do the same on both sides of the equals sign. That means you can add 23 on both sides, or subtract 23 on both sides, or multiply with 11 on both sides, or divide by 17, again, on both sides. You can do what you want, as long as you do it on both sides. So the question is, what's the clever thing to do when you want x isolated? In this equation, we're really close to isolating x already. We just need to get rid of that 5 on the left side. But how do you eliminate that? Well, we can subtract 5 on both sides, of course. So now we have 5 plus x minus 5 on the left side. Reduce that, because 5 minus 5 is 0. So on the left side, we now have only x. On the right side, it says 12 minus 5. That equals 7. So all in all, it says x equals 7. The equation is solved. Maybe you could already see the result in this case, but now you've also learned a clever method. Here is an equation where the solution is not quite as obvious. 3x equals 16 plus x. Good thing we have a few tricks we can use. So we've got 3x on one side and 1x on the other. Remember, the clever thing is to just have x's on one side and numbers on the other. So when you solve an equation, make sure the first step is to isolate the x's from the numbers. So, how do we get rid of the x on the right side? It's pretty easy. We just subtract x from both sides of the equals sign. So now we have 3x minus x. That's 2x on the left side. On the right side, we have 16 plus x minus x. And that's, of course, just 16. So we get 2x equals 16. Now we've got the x's and numbers separated. That's the first step. The next step is having just a single x on the left side. It says 2x, so what do? We divide by 2, so we get 1x, or just x. But remember, we need to divide by 2 on the right side as well. So now we have isolated x. X equals 8. The equation is solved. I bet you now know a bit more about solving equations. Monica has borrowed money from Alex, and now she wants to repay her debt.
Hi, Lex. Here's the money I owe you. $100 plus the $210 in interest, you loan shark. $310. Ka-ching!
Dear sister, I do believe the amount is somewhat higher.
Say what?
You owe me $808. And since I know you're poor, I've rounded down to the dollar.
How do you reach that crazy number, Alex? You know I did calculate the interest.
So did I. The only difference is that I know how to calculate it correctly. But how did you reach your result?
Look, I borrowed the money 7 months ago. That's 210 days. We agreed on an interest of 1% per day. So that's 210% on 210 days. So I should pay you $100 plus 210% of $100. That gives a total of $310.
No, sis, you're totally wrong. The interest accumulates every day. The contract says so. This means that the amount you owe me increases by 1% every day. Let me show you. I'll just draw a table. All right, so you borrowed money for 210 days. On the first day, your debt increased by 1%. So by the end of that day, you owed me 101% of the $100. That's $100 times 1.01 or $101. On the second day, your debt increased by another percent. So by the end of that day, you owed me 101% of what you owed me before. Before the second day, you owed me 100 times 1.01, i.e. $101. So after the second day, your debt will be 100 times 1.01 times 1.01. So by the end of the second day, you owed me $102.1, and so on.
But Alex, that's only 1 cent more than my result. You said $808. Are you sure you haven't made a mistake somewhere?
Yup. If you go on with these calculations, the difference will eventually be huge. Look, on the third day you owed me 100 times 1.01 times 1.01 times 1.01. Do you see the pattern? On the second day, you owed me 100 times 1.01 squared, because this part is 1.01 to the power of 2. On the third day, you owed me 100 times 1.01 cubed, because this part is 1.01 to the power of 3. On the nth day, you owed me $100 times 1.01 to the power of n. So what do you owe me after 210 days?
Those stupid $100 multiplied by 1.01 to the power of 210. Calculator. Okay. You're right, brother.
Check out the equation, sister. This is the one you should have used.
Alex, you're always so wily.
So, k equals k minus 0 times 1 plus x to the power of n.
K minus 0 is the amount I borrowed from you, that is $100. I multiply this with 1 plus x to the power of n. N is the number of interest periods. Since I pay 1% interest per day, there are 210 interest periods. For every interest period, I pay an interest of 1%. So, x is 0.01. That's 1% in decimal form. So, once more, the equation is that I owe you $100 multiplied by 1.01 to the power of 210. You're an artful dodger, brother. Like a robot, aren't you? No feelings.
And you're just a spoiled brat. You just borrow the money from Dad anyway, and you're probably never going to repay them, so don't complain.
Well, you're right, Lex, but don't tell them.
You're shameless.
You too.
Maybe you've learned something about interest by now, or about dodgy loan sharks and spoiled girls.